Hey everybody, my name is Mr. Huntley. This is the video for the 2023-24 school year for Curriculum Night. This is for the high school history classes. This video will go over all classes, 9th grade through 12th grade. We'll start out with some introductory stuff, things that cover all the classes, and then we'll break it down at the end with class by class. Hope you enjoy this. I will summarize the video at the end. Let's get started. So, like I said, this is the presentation for the curriculum night for this school year. I will be going through each class one by one towards the end. And once we get to that portion, I will tell you where you can skip to go to your student's class. So to start out, a little bit about me. My name, of course, is Mr. Huntley. I was born on February 14th. That's why the kids love me so much. That's what I tell them, at least. I grew up in Anson County, born and raised in Wadesboro, went to Anson High School, played football down there. Ended up going to UNC Charlotte, where I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in History in 2016. I'm also a youth pastor at Midway Baptist Church in Wingate, North Carolina. That's where my wife Amber and I live with our two kids. Graham is 4. He's in JK at North Point this year. And our daughter Caroline is 1. So just some general information in history class. A normal day in history class for your students would include a quick review of the previous day to refresh our minds. Mine included sometimes because the weeks can get busy, and getting home and playing with the kids and somehow making it to bed and waking up on time the next morning, sometimes things can get forgotten about. But then we start with the following. Students will grab their books from the bookshelves. Students can then log onto Google Classroom to access their notes. I have them take their notes on Google Classroom as a requirement for this class because, frankly, it keeps them accountable. I can look at them, I can hold them accountable to say, hey, look, you're not taking very good notes. That might reflect why the test grades aren't looking great or the classwork grades could be better. I can look at them and review them. Now, I don't grade their notes. I do give out participation grades on a weekly basis. And basically, the only way you should not make 100 in participation throughout the week is if you were, disruptive, if I caught you on other tabs on the internet while you're supposed to be taking notes. A lot of it's about accountability. A lot of it is for peace of mind for the kids too. That way they can log on to their Google account wherever they are, no matter what device it is, and they can access their notes. So just say, one of the kids in my geography class, he comes to class and his computer's dead and he forgot the charger. Or his computer's not working, or he forgot it at the house and he needs to go borrow a loaner computer for the day from the school. He can log right back on to his Google account, his NCA Google account, and access his notes. He doesn't have to worry about starting a new note file. He doesn't have to worry about losing old things and not being able to transfer it from one place to the other. It's all saved on the Google Cloud, which is just really awesome. And I think it's essential just to keep things just moving smoothly. To get back on track, we dive back into notes on a normal day and journey through a mixture of lecture and individual reading. Now, there are section reviews after each section that we go over. Sometimes if I think it's not clicking very well, or if I didn't have as much time to go into as far detail as I wanted to, we will stop and do the section reviews on occasion. But we don't always do them. So parents, if you're looking at the grade book at your kids' grades, you may see, section 1.1 review. And then we don't do another until section 1.4. And it's not that we purposely didn't do them. It's just sometimes, hey, this is clicking. We're feeling good. Not many questions are being asked, so we can keep on trucking. And that's basically how I do it. Now, there are some days where the kids come in and I have an assignment for them to work on all day. Or all class rather, but the majority of our days, a normal day, we'll come in, we'll back up a couple slides to see if anybody needed to catch up on notes from yesterday, and then we will dive right on in to our newest section or the newest points to bring up. Here is an example of how notes should look in my class. This is an example for one of my students last year as they were going over settling the 13 colonies. She did an amazing job separating the stuff. And one thing that was really beneficial to her and why she got really good grades in class last year was because she took notes on not only what was being shown on the screen via the slides, but also things that I was discussing off of the slides too. The slides don't go over everything. It hits the highlights. It hits the key points and things that I may bring up in discussion or have the kids communicate back with me. Those are the little details that matter. Those are the little details that are important. So as we venture through this class, if one of your kids gets home and they say, I'm having a hard time keeping up in Mr. Huntley's class, and please by all means tell them to come talk to me. I will be happy to help them and see what I can do. But a lot of the issues sometimes that I've noticed is kids will get caught up trying to write down everything word for word on the slides. And that's not learning. And that's not my goal, is to have them or require them to jot down every single thing on the slides. I want them engaged. I want them paying attention. I've tried to teach them ways that they can paraphrase things that I'm saying, paraphrase things that are mentioned on the screen, and things that get brought up or asked about that I answer. That's part of this lecture style of learning, is that it keeps you engaged. It keeps you in a discussion. It's more than just me standing up there like I'm preaching on a Wednesday night at church. It helps them really learn a lot in a shortened way, in a shortened time period. And so writing notes like this, where you're doing bullet points, or if you have time, you can expand on, for example, about the Anglican Church over to your left, or highlighting about pilgrims, over to the right. This is just a really good template for if your kid is having trouble taking notes, so never really been taught how to take notes in a good way. I won't say there's one right way, but there's a lot of wrong ways, of course. Here's just a good example to show them. Your students, they learned history from day one in this class. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of get to know you things in here and at school as a whole. But I want to hit the ground running. I want to show them just how awesome learning history is. Last year, I did my first day history lesson on Waxhaw and the founding of Waxhaw and the Indian tribe that settled here and everything. It was really interesting. And this year, I did one on Union County as a whole. And so, hey, parents, this may be something that you didn't know either. Union County was formed in 1842. You can see in the map above the top picture that Union County is missing on that map. You have Anson County, which says where I'm from, and Wadesboro, and then it goes directly into Mecklenburg County. There is no Union County, and if you know where Waxhaw is on a map, based off this map, Mecklenburg County would be where Waxhaw is. The county was named Union County to resolve a dispute between the local political parties. You had the Democrats in Anson County and the Whig groups the Whig Party in Mecklenburg County, and they were constantly arguing over where the barrier was or where the border was. I mean, obviously with Anson County, the northern border and the eastern border are water, so there's not much dispute there. But between Mecklenburg County and Anson, that line was always argued about, especially for political reasons. So to settle this dispute, they made a new county. That way they can't argue about where the county line is because there's now a county in between them. Excuse me. Union County was largely settled by Scots-Irish and other self-sufficient farmers. Not too much on the slavery side of things down here in this time period, mainly because there wasn't much wealth in this area. You go down into South Carolina, of course, there's more high concentrations of plantations and whatnot. But in this area, a lot of it was self-sufficient farmers. The arrival of the railroad through Union County, it essentially saved Union County from going into utter waste and wilderness after the Civil War. If you know anything about the Civil War, you know General Sherman and the Union Army marched through this area on their way to Atlanta, and they left devastation in their path. General Sherman was very tough, and he had no sympathy for any Confederate rebels. and he destroyed a lot. But the railroad and the railroad being built through here actually helped Union County get back on its feet after the Civil War. It brought life, it brought money, it brought people, and it brought goods to the area. If you think about it, most of every town, at least one of the more popular towns in Union County, other than the northern side of the county, they have a railroad going right through them. You have Marshville, Wingate, Monroe, Stallings, Indian Trail, Waxhaw, and even Mineral Springs all have the railroad going right through them. The picture to the bottom left, of course, is downtown Monroe, which is the county seat of Union County, and the bottom right picture is the depot, the train depot in Monroe, and you can actually still go to that building today. It does not look as well as it does in that picture. I can't remember right off how old that picture is, but now that building is used as a CSX freight train office, and my son Graham, he loves trains, and if we want to find one, our best bet is to ride down to the depot and see if we can find one sitting there or headed towards Waxhaw from there. In current times, the eastern side of Union County, which is where I live, has remained fairly rural. A lot of farmland out there. The kids at school, for some reason, think it's hilarious that I live right next to a cornfield, which I do. It's not mine. I don't have the money to do that. But the western side of Union County has become one of the faster growing areas in the country as a result of the suburbanization from Charlotte. Because let's be honest, a lot of y'all, more than likely, came from the Charlotte area, moved down towards Waxhaw or Indian Trail, or you go over there to work, and you know people that live in this area that moved down here too. Union County is rich, really rich in history, and it's really cool to show the kids stuff like this. So how is technology used in this class? Technology usage in a history style class, it's almost limitless. I mean, we've got it made, y'all, honestly. In class, your students will be using their technology for any of the following. This isn't the limit. This is so much more too. Chapter notes, of course, which we've talked about. Investigate and research and case studies. We'll do that a lot in geography with the high school freshmen, especially looking at, disasters, looking at climate issues and things like that. Creating slides or videos for class presentations. As of right now, my sophomores in world history, they are working on ancient empire presentations where they're having to dive deep, and they're getting really creative with their presentations that they're building. Conducting research of an online database or databases for sources for their reports. This is a history class. You're going to have to do research. You're going to have to write research papers. And that's one thing that I love teaching the students to do, is just looking for the actual treasures that you can find online that you didn't even know were there, out past the main sources that we use the internet for. If we really dive deep, we can find some really, really miraculous stuff. Virtual tours through historical sites. I'll show you an example of one here in a moment, but there's so much more that we can do. The kids, along with the reports, are going to learn how to write with MLA citations. They're going to learn how to write a college-level essay in here, just to prepare them. Look, they may go to college, take their general ed, and not dive really deep into history. But if they do, I want to try my best to have them prepared. I personally wasn't as well prepared, and that was more likely on my side too, as I should have been or as I could have been. So I'm trying to help them get a jump start before they get to college, if that's where they choose to go. Here's an example of one of the virtual tours that the U.S. history students will go on. This is Colonial Williamsburg. This is just a screenshot, and we couldn't screen record it on here. But this is standing in one of the buildings in Williamsburg. This is a easy and much cheaper way to take a field trip to Williamsburg. And each of these circles that you see, like you can click over to the left where the rifles are, or click over to towards the middle where that staircase is. It will take you there. I don't know if you can see down in the hallway towards the middle, but you may see the shadow of a person sitting there. You can go down the hallway, click on that man, and he will stand up and talk to you. It is really, really cool, the things we can do with technology. Here's an example from one of the presentations I had last year in world history that a group of students did. They were talking about the Persian Empire, and they used a map just to show you how large the Persian Empire ended up being before the Persians fell. Really, really interesting stuff, things that they learned that, I can teach them things, they can look in the book, but sometimes you learn the best when you're just diving in and searching for it too. And I'm all about finding different avenues to help these kids learn. I want to talk about grades for a few minutes. These percentages, they should be uniform around North Point, especially in the high school area. Now, the explanations up under them, they may differ from class to class. These are for my class exclusively, but the percentages, the weights, those should be uniform through the entire upper school, especially with the high school, while you're watching this video. So homework and participation. 10% of the grade each quarter will be based off your students' homework and participation. I don't give homework on Wednesdays or Fridays. That doesn't include working on projects that I do later on in the week or studying for a test coming up. That excludes that, but I will not give homework assignments on those nights. Fridays are pretty self-explanatory. I want the kids to enjoy their weekend. I know a lot of them have extracurricular activities. They have some hobbies and stuff outside of school. And personally, I do myself too. And so I want them to be able to enjoy time with their family, enjoy time with their friends, and enjoy doing things that they love to do to get a release, to get a break from the day-to-day craziness that high school can be sometimes. With Wednesdays, like I said earlier in this video, I'm a youth pastor. Our church has Wednesday night services. And, when I started teaching here, I just really had a burden on my heart to make sure that I wouldn't be a hindrance to any of the kids in the classroom going to church if church is open during the middle of the week. I've had kids in the past, in my 5 years of ministry at Midway, that, tell me they got a big project or they got homework to do that night and they can't come to youth group. And, I understand things happen, life can get busy, but I personally wouldn't want my homework assignment to be the reason why your kid, your child, cannot go to church that night. I'm a firm believer in being there when the doors are open, honestly, not to get perfect attendance. That's not going to get you into heaven or give you salvation or anything, just being there every Sunday or whenever services are. But, to just get there and fellowship with other Christians and to feed on the Word and to just soak it in and just take that deep breath, especially if it's on a Wednesday night during the middle of the week, just to get through the next few days before the weekend. I need to kind of move on because I'm getting my preaching voice on. I can feel it coming. But I don't want to keep your kids from going to church. Simple as that. And I want your children to enjoy their weekends as well. Classwork, that is 25% of the total grade for the quarter. A student's lowest classwork grade, it will be dropped at the end of each quarter. So what that means is whether it's an assignment we're doing in class or a quiz, because those are the same. The quiz will fit inside the classwork category. I want to drop the lowest one just to show a little grace, honestly. And just in case, your kid comes to school and they forgot about the quiz. They're not prepared and, they got to take it either way. But sometimes that one bomb, that one mess up, I don't want it to hinder them. I don't want it to affect, their morale for the rest of the time. Just look, you get one freebie, you drop the ball this time. Let's make up for it. Okay, that is only with classwork grades. Okay, I will not drop the lowest homework grade. I will not drop the lowest test grade. But the lowest classwork grade will get dropped. Now that does come with a little bit of fine print. Okay, so if we're coming to the end of the quarter and you got a really good grade, you got an A, and we got a classwork assignment due before the end of the quarter, and you say, oh, that'll be my freebie. No, you can't do that. You have to attempt the assignment. You have to take it, and whatever is the lowest at the end of the quarter will be dropped. Tests and projects, those are 65% of the total grade. Study guides and note cards are given out in advance as part of preparation for the test. If you would like to see an example of the study guides that I build for each test, you can check your students' Google Classroom pages. They should have one up this week. A couple classes do, for their test that they have this week, so you can access those and see those on there. Projects are scored according to a rubric that I create. I do not have one standard rubric for all of my projects because those projects differ based on grade level and things like that. But with that, those are 65%. That is going to be the tell-all for your grades, for your child's grades in my class. The tests, I construct them through a software that we have that is through our curriculum. I can point and decide on what subjects to mainly cover. That way, for some reason, we hit the main ideas. We didn't get a chance to hit this little bitty detail on this one page, and there's a question about it. I can take that question off, okay? Thankfully, BJU Press and North Point gives us the liberty to do that. The tests usually range between 35 to 45 questions, and they have essay questions on there as well. This is where it's a little different for honor students. So if your child is an honor student in one of my classes, tests and projects are graded with higher expectations and more work needed. For example, like I said previously in this video, my sophomores are working on a project. They're working on a presentation on ancient empires. The honor students in that class, they are required a longer speaking time when they present. So for example, I'm not sure right off, I'm not looking at the instruction, but let's just say that students have a minimum of 5 minutes up there. They have to speak for at least 5 minutes. Honor students may have to speak for a minimum of 8 or 9 or even 10 minutes, depending on the subject. Because you're in honors classes, you have higher expectations and your grades will reflect on a more strict grading level. Same thing for tests. When you have an essay question, I expect more from honor students. I expect them to point things out and to argue the points with backup. And that goes for research papers. Research papers count as a project. So if you're an honor student, you will have higher expectations. You will have a lengthier assignment. You may need to conduct more research. You will have higher expectations as an honor student in my class. But that makes up the grades and how they're weighted and what they mean. Continuing on grades, this is how I grade missing work, or late work, It is the student's responsibility, big time, to write down any assignments in their planner to remind themselves when work is due. It was a requirement for you to purchase a planner through North Point. So that way the kids can have something to write down on and remember. That's the way I remember even today. If I don't jot it down on my phone or write it down on a piece of paper, I will forget it. If work is turned in late and the student was present the day it was assigned, the following grading scale will reflect what the student's maximum grade can be on the late assignment. So if you weren't there that day, look, you're going to get a little extra day, especially if you're in the bed sick. That's just how it rolls. People get sick, things happen, we'll adjust and move on. But this is what happens with late work. So let's say that an assignment is due the next day in class. It will be counted late upon the kid leaving campus that day. So let's just say first block, they have an assignment due at the beginning of class. I will give a little leeway, and if they get the assignment turned in by the end of the school day, I will count it as on time. I don't know about you, but that's pretty gracious if you ask me. But if it's 1 day late, the maximum they can get is 90%. That 1 day late starts when they leave this campus. When you come pick them up, or if they're driving and they drive off campus and they didn't turn it in, it is 1 day late from there on out. The next day, 2 days late, maximum is 80. 3 days late, maximum is a 70%. And 4 days late and beyond, it will be counted and kept as a 0. Because at that point, we have moved way past what that assignment was on. More than likely, the student isn't going to do it. And frankly, I don't want to grade stuff that late. Grading is a long process that we're constantly doing, and if we teachers have to go back and do that, we can kind of get things thrown off too. So 4 days late and beyond, let's just cut our losses and keep on trucking. So these are the courses by grade level. So they go from left to right, from 9th grade to 12th grade. 9th graders are taking cultural geography. If you were at open house, you saw these books. 10th grade, sophomores, you are taking world history. Our high school juniors are taking United States history, and our first ever senior class at North Point Christian Academy, they are taking American government. So from this point on in the video, you can skip ahead to each of the sections unless you just are curious and want to hear about each class. That's great too. But we are going to break them down by grade level and show you what subjects, what lessons we're going to be covering in each quarter. So, cultural geography. Quarter 1, which is what we're in right now. We're talking about the world. Physical geography, types of maps, Earth's people, and climate. That is the majority of what we're talking about right now. We are getting into the physical part of geography because the class, the idea, the details behind the class, it's in the name. We're not just studying maps. We're not just looking at rocks. We're looking at the cultures that live in each geographical location of the earth. Right now, as of today, which is Tuesday the 12th, we just finished up in this class talking about major bodies of water. We're breaking that down. We've talked about the Earth's crust, how mountains have been formed, and it's really cool to teach these kids that they can look at the origins of the Earth from a biblical worldview, and it make as much, and arguably, this is just me talking, more sense than an evolutionary worldview. You can see things. There's proof of God's creation in the details of this earth, and it's just beautiful. Quarter 2, we will start talking about different areas of the world. We'll start out by talking about the United States and Canada. We'll start talking about Latin America, Europe, and Russia. Then we will go into Africa. We will spend a majority of quarter 3 in Africa just because it's so large, so vast, and each area can be different from one another. We'll talk about the Middle East and Central and South Asia. And then to wrap up the end of the school year, we will go to East and Southeast Asia and then finish up with a very, very short chapter on Oceania and Antarctica, since there's not much culture in Antarctica. Now, major assignments through this class, they will vary from presentations to areas such as, making brochures for travel and also research papers. For example, last year, once we got to Africa, I had the students write a research paper on the apartheid period in South Africa, which was very interesting for them to read about and research about. We also did a travel brochure for the United States where they were given a state to design and build a travel brochure to convince me to take a vacation there. And hopefully they're offering a free vacation for me to go on. But options are limitless in this class for major projects. World history, this is for the 10th graders. We start at the beginning in world history, creation to 500 BC. Chapter 2 is the advance of civilization from 500 BC to 500 AD. Okay, that's where we are right now. That's where they're doing their projects like we've talked about a couple times on this video already. Quarter 2, we'll move on to cultures of the world, how those are starting to become exclusive to each other, global transitions. Then we get into the Enlightenment world, the Enlightened period, and the European world, scientific revolution over there. It's really, really fascinating to see how they discovered, hey, there's things that live on this earth that we can't even see, and how they learned how to use microscopes and things like that. Really interesting stuff. We'll also talk about war and unrest. We will touch on World War I and II from a world view, not as much as an American view, because that is for our high school juniors, of course. We'll get to those in just a minute. And then we'll go all the way to present day and how world history, all these major events that we talked about ever since creation have led us here. And there may be some results of events. There may be some consequences of why the world is the way it is because of previous events that we've gone over. There will be research papers done in this class. more than likely about the scientific revolution in Europe that I have planned for this year, and they will work on other major things as well. United States history for the juniors. We talk about the colonial era, which is where we are right now. We are finishing that up soon. Then we get into the chapter or unit called Forge, which covers the Revolutionary era and the rise of the Federalist. Quarter 2, we kick off the birth of the nation. After the Revolutionary era, of course, we'll talk about the Jefferson and Andrew Jackson eras, manifest destiny of how it was, destiny for us to westwardly expand. And then we get to the Civil War and Reconstruction. The Civil War will be taught a lot about how it affected things around here locally, like we mentioned about the railroad and Sherman and things like that. Quarter 3 after Christmas, we will talk about the Gilded Age and the Great War, World War I. The Gilded Age is also a really interesting time period. We will finish up quarter 3 with the 20s, the 30s, and World War II. World War II is always a big favorite of the students just because there's so many primary sources online for it. There's several documentaries that show, real footage of what really happened, and they've recently released some that they colorized so you can see, and it feels just so much more real to the kids of this era. And I have a lot of World War II relics that was passed down from my family that I have that I can bring in and show them, and they really enjoyed seeing that stuff. Quarter 4, we will finish out the school year before end of year testing with the post-war era, the civil rights, and resurgence of conservatism. And last but not least, for our high school seniors, we are in American government. We have been talking about in quarter 1, America's foundation, the forms of government across the world, the church, and how the government interacts with the church. We will start the section on the Constitution before quarter 1 ends about constitutional beginnings and how the Constitution came to be. We will start quarter 2 finishing up talking about the Constitution, the federalism and state and local government and how those formed. And then we will get into the branches. We have broadly talked about the 3 branches of American government already, but we will go into really, really deep details. There are less chapters in this book than the other books in high school, but they do go deeper for sure. We will talk about the legislative branch, the structure of Congress and the powers of Congress. We've already practiced, what it's like to be in debates and to vote on things. We did a fast food bracket challenge where we, as a class, met like we were in the Senate, and we discussed and we debated and we voted, and whatever fast food restaurant passed, that's what kept on going. I think Chick-fil-A ended up winning. I can't remember. And there were some pretty heated disputes about, I want to say that between Bojangles and Panda Express. I think some were left with their feelings hurt, which that's government for you. Quarter 3 after Christmas, we'll get into the executive branch and the judicial branch. I am very, very happy to be teaching this class during a big election year. And we will be watching things in here that are going on currently in the world, especially when it comes to debates, in the country, when it comes to debates, when it comes to ideas being brought up in Congress. We will be watching current events. And then as we wrap up the school year, we will summarize and finish up the judicial branch, and then we will talk about party politics, the party system, campaigns, how those go, and elections, and public policy politics. Thank you everybody so much for watching this video and having such awesome kids too, by the way. I really do enjoy being around these kids each and every day, not only teaching them history, but just ministering to them and showing them how awesome God is through history, through chapel on Fridays. And it's just an awesome, and I'm very humbled to serve in this ministry here at North Point. I will say, to sum up everything, there will be midterm exams. There'll also be final exams. The midterm, of course, will be before Christmas because they'll have the same class after Christmas. And there'll also be a final exam too, along with the end of year testing. So be prepared for that. The kids know about that. We've talked about that before. But if there was anything in this video that we didn't cover, or you may still have questions about, please don't hesitate to email me. If your questions need to be answered quickly, please email me during the day, during the school day. I check my email before I leave school each day, and we'll reply back to you. If you do send me an email after 3:30, please give me at least until the next morning to reply back, because I'm not on my laptop much at home with the kids and with church and other things like that. But thank you once again, just to summarize everything, thank you so much for all that you do as parents, and thank you for supporting us here at North Point. Y'all have a great night. See ya.